Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
Hello and welcome to Waterfall. It's the water saving podcast brought to you by CCW. That's the Consumer Council for Water. We are busy representing everyone who drinks water in England and Wales. I'm Mike and I'm here with the smashing Karen Gibbs. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Mike.
You all right?
I think so.
Oh, that sounded a bit cagey to me. Tom's here, producer Tom. Hello,
Hey,
producer Tom.
Mike. Hey, Karen. Hey, everyone. Yet again, privy to the best water saving podcast in the world. I'm very lucky.
I don't think there are many.
There aren't many. We don't have much competition.
I think we can say we are the UK's premier water saving podcast.
We are definitive.
Yeah, on the basis that we think we're the only one. But let's skirt over that bit. So. Waterfall, we've got a great show lined up, right? We are finding out about Water Night, which is an initiative from Australia. So wow, we are going full on round the globe to the other side of the world, and we'll be joined by Chris Philpot, who's the chief exec of the Water Conservancy. There's a word you don't use very much, right? Conservancy. When have you ever used that word?
We're all over the world with this podcast, Mike. We've got Malawi, we've got Australia, haven't Ficket, we're just all over.
We even went to Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And got out there intact. Karen, if you want to get in touch with the show, how could someone do that?
They could email us at podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
Or what else could they do, Karen?
They could send us a letter.
Yes, they could. Yes, they could. They could also check us out on Instagram. Karen clearly hasn't checked us out on Instagram. We're Waterfall Podcast on Instagram.
We are.
And we were talking about Pet Shop Boys Go West when we were promoting Go Tap, and I've managed to put some Go West music on.
Nice. Okay.
So please do check that out. Right, before we get into our guest and the whole Water Night initiative, I do want to mention very quickly, Karen, and I think you'll like this one, an article that my sister flagged to me, actually. She sent me this article from the Daily Express. By the way, hello, Jenny. Thank you for listening. The article was about washing your hair. Karen's got that look, oh no, not another hair washing thing. And it was an article that basically said it's bad for your hair if you wash it every day. So don't wash your hair every day. Now, clearly that's got to be a good idea, Karen, right? From a water savings point of view.
Yeah, I'd say so. I certainly don't wash my hair every day.
That wasn't the answer I expected. Wow. This is one of the few times where I've probably got the worst habit then, because I think whenever I have a shower, I will wash my hair by default, just out of habit.
Yeah, same.
And I was running in to work this morning thinking about the podcast, and I ran in and then have a shower, and I didn't wash my hair this morning in the shower because I was deliberately thinking about it. But it just shows how your habits are they're just there. You just do them by default, don't you? I mean, so basically this is interesting. So Karen doesn't, but Tom and I do.
Every day, by default, yeah. But it takes longer for the fairer kind to do it, doesn't it? And there's like natural oils, I think, Karen, that help the hair wash itself. I'm not quite sure.
Well, that's what the article is going on about. Yeah, this whole, if you wash it every day, you're getting rid of these natural oils. It's damaging for your hair. I mean, my hair is beyond help anyway, so not that I really care that much. Anyway, there you go. So, right, let's get on. Let's get on with the main bit of the show. We have got a great guest. All the way from Sydney, Australia, is Chris Philpot. So it's time to bring on the guest.
The human body is roughly 60% water. This podcast is 100.
It's brilliant to have Chris Philpot, who's the chief executive of the Water Conservancy, join in Waterfall. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Good. You're our farthest flung guest ever.
Oh, it's absolutely fabulous to be here. I have to say, the wonders of modern technology, which means we can communicate so well these days from so far away.
So we've just had breakfast, right? I had 2 slices of toast with marmalade. You've just had dinner, right? I'm guessing?
I've just had dinner. It's pitch black outside and the kids are going to bed. So that's right. Yeah. So 9 hours ahead of London we are over here in Sydney, Australia.
The big question is, what did you have for dinner?
a lovely bowl of pasta. Thanks very much.
There we go. They call me Paxman. The searching questions. Let's get into the main topic in hand. So you are the chief exec of the Water Conservancy. What is the Water Conservancy?
Well, at the Water Conservancy, we like to help Australians value water more, use it more wisely, use it efficiently so that we don't waste it, essentially. And, that's all around, we run programs and campaigns to essentially educate people around where their water's coming from, how it gets to their homes, to make people more aware of their water use. And we provide tips and advice on how to save water around the home as well. We also do a lot of work with businesses and different industry sectors, as well as government and the water industry as well.
So who pays for you? Are you a charity or how does it work?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not a charity; we're a not-for-profit, and so all the profit we do make goes back into doing good and developing new programs and helping things achieve our goals and objectives and our aims. Funded through a variety of different sources, so through sponsorship, through sort of campaign subscriptions and program subscriptions, and we run a certification program which has a sort of a license fee attached to it as well. So a variety of different funding sources, all which go back into sort of doing greater good within Australia.
No, sounds brilliant. Australia has some well-documented water resource issues. The kind of view from the UK is that you had your big drought, but now it's okay. So tell me, how wrong is that oversimplification?
Oh, it's pretty wrong. I mean, we've had an insane 5 years over here. We really have. In the last 5 years, we've had one of the worst droughts ever. We've had extreme bushfires. We've had COVID complications. And then recently we've had terrible flooding. And when we talk about the drought and the floods that we've seen in the last 5 years, they're real extreme scenarios. The drought that happened on the east coast of Australia, sort of 3 or 4 years ago, it ran for about 3 years. And we saw dam levels drop from, pretty much spilling at over 100% down to about 30% over the space of those 3 years. It literally dropped 70% capacity within 3 years, which is sort of unprecedented levels of supply reduction. When you look at the big drought we had, which is named the Millennium Drought, which ran from sort of the first 10 years from 2000 to 2010, that was much slower, much slower. Restrictions were introduced sort of every 2 or 3 years during that 10-year period. But the recent drought we had, we were moving from one level of restrictions to the next within 2 or 3 months. People couldn't keep up. We were just getting used to what you couldn't do, and suddenly there was something else that you couldn't do. The rate of water loss was just huge. And then we went into bushfires. There were bushfires raging through the state of New South Wales and northern Victoria for many months. Started early in November, which is really early in the season. Then COVID hit, and then for the last kind of 2 years, we've been suffering from what they call La Nina over here, which is when you have really wet conditions on the east coast of Australia. And we've had huge amounts of rainfall and huge flooding and real disaster zones all over the country. But the good news is that they've just announced recently that La Nina is finished, and sounds like we're moving back into a El Nino, which is a drought condition again. So, from one extreme to another, really.
I mean, we had some quite extraordinary weather last year, which led to some restrictions on use in England and Wales, which was very unusual for it to be so widespread. I mean, just how far do the restrictions go in Australia? To what extent, is the amount of water that you use restricted?
I suppose different areas have different rules and regulations around what you can and can't do. There's not kind of one standard rule across the whole country, which probably be a good idea if there was, but there Unfortunately, there isn't. So, some areas have rules whereby, odd houses, one side of the street can water their garden sort of every other day, and then the other side of the street water their garden on the days when the other side isn't, sort of thing. Odd and even watering rules. It really depends on the level of restrictions. When it gets really severe, things like you can't wash your car. You can't water your garden. You really just have to be using a rainwater tank, not a water supply from a tap. And they try to place behavioural advice on the way we use water inside the home, although obviously you can't really police that. But So yeah, I mean, it's interesting times. I think certainly climate change over here is really having its impact a lot, and we're really seeing those as it is in the UK too. I know, probably many places around the planet. So we're seeing more extremes of floods and droughts when they do happen, and they're happening more regularly. So I think it's time. What it means is we just have to be more aware of our water use, and really think about how we're using it and use it sensibly, and not take it for granted like most of us do.
Before you were a millennium drought, did people see it coming?
I think probably, in Australia, Australia goes through natural drought flood cycles. So I'm sure it would have been, people would have seen it coming. It would have been predicted, but it's certainly the intensity and the frequency and the duration of these floods and drought kind of scenarios is definitely increasing. So, it's just something that we know is around the corner, and we need to use water sensibly all the time. In our opinion, it doesn't matter whether it's a flood or a drought situation. You should always just use water sensibly and not waste it. It's as simple as that, really, in our opinion.
I'm interested in complacency, and whether or not we are, as a society, adequately prepared for this kind of thing. I once asked someone very knowledgeable who works for the Environment Agency, when you were having your millennium drought, I said, well, it's the sort of thing, if that happened here, how unprepared would we be? And they said, oh, well, it could never happen here. But I'm not so sure. And it does feel like these sort of things can really, if you're not prepared, can really bite you where it hurts.
I think the issue, from my understanding of the UK water supply, is that you have quite short-term water storages. So when you have a sort of a drought that goes for sort of 2 or 3 months, that's quite a long time for the UK, isn't it? And you get into a bit of trouble with your water supply because the storages aren't set up for long-term droughts, really. Whereas in Australia, we have huge reservoirs because I suppose they just know that droughts go for a long time. So, we don't have droughts that last 2 or 3 months. We have droughts that last kind of, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. So Warragamba Dam, which is Sydney's main drinking water supply, over the 10-year drought that we had at the start of the millennium, eventually dropped from 100% down to around 33%. And yeah, that was largely due to the water conservation measures that were being put in place, and the encouragement for the community to save water at home, and all of the restrictions that were in place, and all of the ways that the businesses were doing their thing to really try and optimize their business water use. All of those things obviously slowed down the rate at which the dam levels drop. But the reality is that there's a big supply there at the start. So, I think our resilience is maybe we're a bit more prepared, I suppose, for those longer duration droughts because of the way our water supply is set up. However, we've seen huge population increases in many of our major cities in the same way, and our regional areas too, I should add, since COVID particularly. And I think it's really important that we don't sort of act with a level of complacency, and we need to sort of, be aware of our water use and use it sensibly. Otherwise, we're not going to have enough supply the next time the big drought comes around.
So we're really interested in the initiative that you've been running recently called Water Night. And it does feel like it's a great opportunity for a song. Who sung Water Night?
Was that Dexys?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Like, oh, what a night.
Yeah, that song. Yeah.
We played with that many times. It was a big joke over here when we first started it, actually. As you'd imagine.
It's right there. It's right there.
It's good.
Yeah,
Well, we're thinking about closing track for the podcast.
Yeah.
So tell us about it. It wasn't just inspired by a song.
No, it wasn't inspired by a song. The song was suggested we might use that song as part of the campaign, but that never happened. Thank goodness, actually, in my opinion. But no, Water Night was an initiative that came about as part of a huge piece of research that we did, which was sort of quantitative and qualitative. We conducted interviews, one-on-one interviews with many Australians all around the country, and did a survey of over 2,000 Australians to basically explore people's water use and the way we use water in the home. And we looked at different generations and the way different generations use water, different genders, different states and territories and different regions, and really wanted to sort of like try and explore how we're using water in the home. Are we thinking about it? Are we aware of it? Or do we take it for granted? And the research came back and it was just like, wow, we really take water for granted. We use it and we coined the expression, we use it on autopilot. We're too busy going about our everyday lives to really give water a second's thought. The only time that we actually stop to think about water is when we turn on the tap and nothing comes out because there's a burst water main in the street, and then we're on the phone having a right go at the water company because there's no water. And it's sort of like, it's not until that happens that you actually think about water. And so we were like, well, we really need an event or an occasion that's going to cause everybody to have that kind of that burst water main moment, if you like. And we sort of wanted to the first idea was that we would be able to encourage the big water utilities to turn off their water supply and essentially just for 5 hours, and then sort of quickly realized that wasn't going to be a goer, and that there's no point even talking about that because obviously there was a huge public health issue, and that was never going to run. And so our second best idea was, well, what if we get everybody just to sign up to commit to, going for 5 hours without using water themselves. And that would be enough to really break that autopilot and give people a chance to see what it's like when you don't just take water for granted. So Water Night has run for the last 3 years during National Water Week, which is a well-known week of water kind of awareness within Australia that takes place on the third Thursday of October every year. And so Water Night takes place on the Thursday of National Water Week. And what we're asking people essentially is to commit to not use water in their homes between 5 and 10 p.m. during Water Night. The research, just going back to the research a little bit before we talk too much more about Water Night, if that's okay. We really found through our research that there was a real disconnect in the way people think about water. And so we found when we asked people about water, they're thinking more about rain and the lakes and rivers. Like 86% of people think about rain, 73% people think about lakes and rivers. They're not thinking about the water that's coming out of their tap. They're thinking about sort of water that's in the environment. And then when we ask people specifically about tap water, the water that that they use in their homes every day for like all the things that we use water for throughout our entire life, they just said, oh, fluoride and plumbing. I was like, well, okay. So what about nothing like, that it's precious or that it's a beautiful thing to drink or we need it to live? Like the two main things that came out about tap water were fluoride and plumbing. And so we really determined from our research that there's a big disconnect between water in the environment and tap water. And the main reason for that is that levels of water literacy in Australia are very, very poor, particularly amongst the younger generations. So we looked at the different generations, and basically the older sort of baby boomers that had maybe experienced a few more droughts and a bit more of a water shortage had got a much better knowledge about how water gets to their home, the process it goes through by the water utility in terms of treating and pumping it and delivering it to their home. And when they turn on their taps, they take time to value it and appreciate it, and they're aware of their water use. And that's the older generation. But as you get down to the Gen Zers, and we don't want to bag anyone out, but the Gen Zers they're the most likely to take water for granted. They're the most water illiterate, and they're the biggest water wasters. However, on the flip side of that, they're also really environmentally minded, and they want to do the right thing by the environment and by climate change. So we see Gen Z as a huge opportunity generation for us, and that's Water Night is focused all at Generation Z. So because we know that if we can essentially close that gap in the mindset of a Gen Zer and make them realize that by using water efficiently and by being aware of their water use, then that's going to be good for the environment and good for climate change, then they're going to do it. That's going to be a big enough reason for them to actually start behaving in the right way around their water. So so for us Gen Zs, because from our research we've determined that Gen Z is that huge opportunity for us, and so really it's an education and an experience problem, and that's also something that really spoke loud and clear from our research, that we need to better educate people and we need to give people an experience in order for them to become endeared to water. So we sort of coined this thing called the 3 E's, which is education plus experience equals endearment. And so what Water Night does, essentially, in the eyes of a house, someone dwelling in Australia, is it provides that education and that experience opportunity. And once they've done that, they then become endeared to water, or for want of a better word, they value it more, and they use it more wisely and efficiently, and they don't waste it. So it's a journey. So Water Night's the first part of the journey that we're taking people along to help them become more educated, become experienced in a water shortage, and then be valuing water more and loving water and using it how we all should be, sensibly.
This podcast is brought to you by CCW, the voice for water consumers.
So how did you make it into an experience for these guys? Because so Gen Z, I have to confess, I just looked it up. So people aged between 10 and 27, apparently, according to their thing that is the internet. So the way to communicate with them is entirely through TikTok and WhatsApp, and basically anything that involves a mobile device. I mean, how did you do that?
Pretty much just named a few of our key campaign strategies. We do, and sort of I don't know if Gen Z is categorized differently in different countries. I wouldn't have thought it would be, but from my understanding, it was 18 to sort of 25-year-olds. But so I hadn't heard it was as young as 10, but I'm not, don't mean to contradict it. It may well be, it depends which Google source you look at potentially, but essentially, I mean, it's that younger generation, that kind of, those young adults really who are learning everything from social media. So we run a 6-week campaign in the lead up to Water Night every year, and that campaign is specifically aimed at increasing awareness of the event and encouraging people to sign up and register and participate. We know that a lot of Gen Zs do things but don't necessarily sign up, so that's a challenge that we have to take on board. So we have our registration figures every year, and we know from the hashtags and the social media activity that it's the level of participation is probably significantly higher than just those people that are registering, because think about the number of events that you might take part in but you don't necessarily register. Like Dry July is a big thing over here. I do that every year, try and go for the whole of July without drinking alcohol, and and I never register for it. I probably should, because I just they obviously as an event organizer, I know their pain when people do things and don't register. But anyway, getting back to the point, how do we get Gen Zs more aware and on board with Water Night? It is through social media. Activity is a huge part of the campaign, the awareness campaign we run. So we work with, we have delivered fun videos and games on TikTok. This is prior to it all becoming very controversial recently. We also use obviously Facebook and Instagram, work with social influencers that have large followings. So have some budget available to pay them to make videos.
How do you identify the influencers?
Oh, there's so many influencers these days. It's really about just picking a few. That have the right. Obviously, the more followers they have, the bigger the price tag that comes attached to them generally. So, we as a not-for-profit, our budget is only as big as the sponsorship that we bring in for Water Night, and so we know what our budget is for social media promotion, and that is a large determinant of the social influencers that we go with. We did change our strategy slightly this year. Last year, we decided to go with 3 or 4 quite large social influencers that had quite big followings. And then this year, we actually chose to go with smaller social influencers with smaller followings, which enabled us for the same budget to actually, use more social influencers than the year before. Because they had smaller followings. And again, the campaign reach through social ended up being significantly bigger, which was quite interesting, I thought. So we'll definitely take that approach again, to use, follow social influencers with less follows, but more of them.
That's very interesting. It's because it's one of these things that always comes up about, who could we use influencers? And then you're like, how do you find them? And how do we know if someone's got any interest in water?
Well, obviously you have to kind of vet them out a bit and make sure that they're not going to say anything controversial, or they haven't got their fingers in anything that might be sort of adverse to your company's values and beliefs. But there are lots of people that are out there that are really trying to do the right thing, and just, obviously they've got a financial interest, but they're also trying to do the right thing. So, our evaluation reports that are available on the website at waternight.com.au, they highlight all of the influencers we worked with and the results that we had from them. And you can also just go on and just put hashtag Waternight Challenge into Instagram or into TikTok, and you'll be able to see all of the past videos that we did. If anyone's listening and interested to explore some of those videos.
Well, Chris, I just want to call it out. We're quite interested in nicking your idea. So if you want to just lawyer up and be prepared to sue us.
I'd love to explore a more collaborative approach to bring Water Night to the UK.
No, we would love to. That would be something we definitely want to explore, because anything we can do, we love what you're trying to do with Water Night. Sounds absolutely brilliant, and trying to engage people who wouldn't necessarily normally engage. We know it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that's worth trying to grapple with and not shirk. So absolutely, we'd love to explore doing stuff collaboratively with you. Now, one thing Karen's always banging on about to me is how difficult it is to evaluate water efficiency campaigns. How did you go about that?
That's a really good question, and Karen's absolutely right. There's so much background noise and lots of things going on. It is often hard to evaluate. And of course, when we first came up with the idea of Water Night, we obviously had the research to support the idea that it would be a real good thing to try, but we didn't know if it was really going to work, at first. Whereas now we've delivered it for 3 years, and we've got the data to show that it does work, and it really has achieved some quite solid results when it comes to its aims and objectives. So just to explain a little bit more around that. I often get asked, have you worked with the water utilities to look at sort of water use and read meters before and after to sort of detect what the water savings have been, and the answer really is we haven't really explored that yet, because Water Night's not really about how much water have we saved on the night. It's about awareness of how often we're using our taps, our showers, our toilets, watering our garden. It's about awareness of that and actually encouraging people to value water more, a little bit like Earth Hour is for energy. They're not trying to save electricity or energy, they're trying to just raise awareness of energy and climate change. So Water Night is like that. However, in saying that, it'd be lovely to work with a region in Australia that has implemented smart meters, and there are a few of them around, and it'd be lovely to be able to kind of look at the smart meter data before, during and after Water Night to really see that impact. But just to tell you a little bit about what we have done in the last 3 years and why we know Water Night does work, we do before and after surveys of the participants. So in the last 3 years, we've just seen the numbers of people registering for Water Night increase every year. So in total, over the 3 years, we've had almost 6,000 households participate, which is almost 5,000 children and about 11,000 adults in total over 3 years. So, I don't know if you consider that to be a large or a small number. It's a new event, it's a new initiative, so for me, I'm pretty happy with those numbers as an event that's only just been launched in the last 3 years. But the point is that all of those people, once they've signed up, we know that they are then committed to participating in Water Night, and they'll be sent a survey which they do upon registration, and then another survey which they do immediately after Water Night. And those two surveys are largely ask very similar questions, and they're designed to test those registrations. It's designed to test those people's levels of water literacy and their awareness and how much they value water and how much they understand about how water gets to their home and how they use water. So they do that survey twice. They do it when they sign up and they do it when they've done Water Night, and it's really quite staggering. We've seen over the 3 years, we've seen the same results come back time and time again every year. So we've seen that levels of water literacy amongst participants have increased by about 25%. We've seen that levels of water awareness of, how often they're using their taps and how much they use when they're showering and how much the washing machine might use. Levels of water awareness increased by about 18%, and participants also claim to use their taps 10% less after Water Night. So those three statistics, 25% increase in water literacy, 18% in water awareness, and 10% reduction in tap use after Water Night, they've been consistent for 3 years running, with just very minor variations. But, which I think is super interesting. And for us, that's how we've evaluated it so far. And that's how we know that, it's really achieving its aims and objectives and helping people value water more. We've also seen an increase in Generation Z, I might add. One last thing. So I did say our target audience is Gen Z. And over the 3 years, we've seen the proportion of people that are registering, the Gen Z proportion is growing. So so that's also really encouraging.
No, really impressive. I mean, it's great that you've got some sort of metrics that you've used to be able to say, look, before and after, this is the impact. And that sounds really impressive. So, I mean, well worth doing this initiative. So you'll expect another call from us to work out how we can work collaboratively to avoid the lawyers. But that sounds great. We're running out of time, but one of the things that we always ask, or try to ask, our guests is what's their own personal water use in terms of litres per water per day. So in the Philpot household, what is the per capita consumption, as the technical people like to say?
We're very smelly in our house. We just use 2 litres each a day for drinking. That's all we use, nothing else. No, just joking. I don't know. I haven't measured it.
I was loving that. Yeah.
I haven't measured it, to be honest, Mike, but I'd like to think that our water use was pretty low. Obviously need to practice what I preach. We have a large rainwater tank in our garden, which covers all of our outdoor water use. So we have highly rated water efficient dishwashers and washing machines, and the worst thing is just trying to get the kids out of the shower, really, and trying to stop encourage them to turn off their tap when they brush their teeth. I'm like, come on, you got to do what I'm telling everyone else to do, and you're not even doing it either. It's shocking, really, isn't it? But kids don't listen to me, do they?
Well, it's constant battle.
Yeah, I know.
So, Chris, that doesn't put you in a good position on our leaderboard. I just want to say that do not know is in our book is that's bottom of the leaderboard. So next time you're going to have to check it out. It's been brilliant having you on. Thank you. We've learned loads about water tonight. It sounds great. We do want to try it here, so we will be in touch. So thank you.
At all. It's lovely to chat to you, and always happy to talk about water tonight. So yeah, just reach out.
What would you like Waterfall to cover next? Send your water-saving topics to podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
So that was Chris Philpot there. Really great to have him on. Great to reach out to Australia. Waterfall's reach across the world is ever expanding. And one thing, look, it's Monday morning here in the UK as we record this.
It is.
And I have to say, I was sitting watching Chris on the screen. We're doing this over Zoom, and he was looking tanned and healthy. And here's us, me and Tom in here looking pasty.
We haven't even washed our hair today.
Exactly, pasty and slightly haggard. He was just looked annoyingly healthy and tanned. So anyway, there we go. But there was some great stuff in there. We'll put the website address that he gave out. We'll put that in the show notes.
The Water Night Challenge as well.
The Water Night Challenge. There was a hashtag there. So. Please do find out more if you're interested, and we are very interested in the potential for doing that here. Karen, any final thoughts from you?
I think the thing for me that I thought was really quite interesting was the fact that the research that they'd done in Australia had come up with very similar results to the research that we've done over here, particularly about the fact that people use water in a very habitual way without really thinking about it. And that's really what our mission is, isn't it, Mike? To try to raise people's awareness and encourage them to use it wisely.
Well, yeah, and changing habits. Once those new habits are formed, then it's not difficult. It's not a chore. It's not a sacrifice. It's just a new habit. So you're quite right there. So last thing, don't forget you can get in touch with the show. We've got an Instagram account, Waterfall Podcast. We also have an email address.
We do, and that's podcast@ccwater.org.uk.
And Tom will get cross if we don't say check out our extensive back catalogue of Waterfall episodes. And if you do like what you're hearing, subscribe to the show and give us a 5-star review.
5-star review. Check out all the nice reviews on iTunes. We've got almost 30 episodes now. So it's almost 10 hours of Waterfall content. So if you want to just have a binge and treat yourself one work day, then download them all.
And what a treat that would be.
Yeah, oh my God. The laughs would never end.
Right, so on that note, it's time to say goodbye. So it's bye from me, Mike.
Bye from me, producer Tom.
Bye from me, Karen.